Alright everyone, Supreme Kami over here, and today I'm going to be going over the Tieren Taozi's alteration, some of the EXQ that this unit possesses over here, and just going to be talking about whether or not you guys should be alterating it and if the EXQ are worth maxing out and alterating it. So this unit is actually quite a recent return actually, because I recall picking up the Tieren Taozi this is probably like the third rerun that it has. So if you guys were able to capitalize the last time it came back around, I'm pretty sure this time around you guys don't really have to focus on getting every one of this part. I did quickly take a look at some of the part myself, and I do have to say that not everything is really mandatory for like maxing out or even trying to get the alteration. I think the best thing to do is actually trying to get the full set itself, so you guys can definitely, if you guys do have the full set of the Tieren Taozi, that one collection right there will add on to your completed collection. That will definitely help you guys out in terms of activation effects for your frame upgrade right there. So I think that's probably like the main use of like if you want to get the Tieren Taozi. And then in terms of how you can get the Tieren Taozi, we can just kind of talk about where you can get or what kind of materials that is needed in order to get them. So we're gonna quickly hop over to the mission tab over there, and then we're gonna click on the event over here. And then the only way you can get the Tieren Taozi or how to exchange it is if you go over to this week's treasure missions over here. If you click on this one over here, and you can see that there is a event tab that is called Revive Parts over here. So once you click on that, you guys can see that in terms of the droppable items, you can get the full set of the Tieren Taozi. The palette is the Soma Periods over here, as well as materials that you can use to pick up any of the part that is with your desire. So in terms of the actual palette, I think the palette can be a pretty crucial part if you guys are talking about trying to work on your job grade for a mid shooter, because Soma Periods is actually a middle shooter, so you guys do need some grade or job grade for that. That is definitely a kind of good way to get that. So in order to get this materials that is needed, because if you guys do want to play this mission, you will need the token coins, the treasure token coins. So how you get that is basically this thing over here. So how you get that is basically playing through this week's warfare events over here. So what you want to do, you just want to play maybe like a bajillion of them. I think that will allow you to get the treasure like this over here. What do they call it? The treasure token over here. So let me actually run a few quick runs for you guys, and I'll see how many we can get. Do keep that in mind. I do have a max out event multiplier for this week, so that's why it may or may not be a determining factor of like how much you guys can get. So that is definitely something you guys should take into consideration. Where you guys are talking about like, oh, how come I'm not able to farm as much as I can? So yeah, so I'm gonna be doing a 27 ticket skip right there, and then we should be walking away with a bajillion of them. I think yeah, we got like 2, 4, 5. You know, yeah, it's not a lot. Even with max out multiplier, I personally do feel like we're not really getting that much. So yeah, but you know, after you get maybe like an adequate amount of that, you can hop over to the treasure mission and then just kind of start farming it. But you know, before doing that, right, before hopping into like actually clearing some of the, you know, some of your this over here, I would highly suggest you guys to see what is actually good for alteration, because I do feel like not every part is really up top tier to kind of get. So we do have kind of 6 parts to go over, 2 EXQ that I'll actually be showcasing of both their let's say, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it at their base level 1 EXQ as well as the level 10 EXQ, like EXQ level 10. So we can do like a quick comparison to see like what kind of damage difference we can be looking at. Because I don't feel like there's really much necessary to just kind of alterate it, because prior to alteration we are already getting like a what B power already. I think even at base level 1 we are getting B power, right? Okay, let me see if I can find one that is base level 1. This one is a base level 1, it's already at B power. I think the only differences that you will see from, you know, EX skill level 1 to EX skill level 10 is the amount of magazine that we have increased from. I believe we went up from 8 to 11, so that is going to be a big difference. And with up to alteration, we are bumping in terms of piercing to like a B already. So after you max this guy out, you're looking at a B minus. So I think the main differences that we're gonna see is actually jumping in terms of the piercing value and then the magazine size right there. So I don't think there's anything too substantially of a change right there, but we're definitely testing it out to see what kind of differences we can be looking at. So yeah, so they both apply to both EX skills. So yeah, all right, yeah. Both of them is literally the same. They're both magazine type. So, but I do have to tell you guys that in terms of the Tieren Taozi's arm, it's actually really powerful. Like in terms of both the EX skill, they would probably one up the EX skill that you would be using back in the original days when we had the Inferno versions, because like these were like god tier. Like back then, these EX skill magazine, they were hitting for like a bajillion damage. So that's how good they were back then. But I'm not too sure how much they have pulled up since now. But let's talk about the alteration first, and then we'll move on to some EX skill testing, and then you know, that should be pretty much it. So that should be a pretty good deciding factor for you guys to see. All right, what kind of part do I want to get, and etc. and etc. So in terms of head portrait is pretty bad already. So piercing value boosted by 28%. So I think that is actually going to work very well with a AE minus piercing that this unit EX skill is coming with. So I feel like the 28% piercing value is definitely going to help that A piercing value by a lot. So it's not actually not a good combo, not a bad combo, excuse me. But in terms of like how relevant this portrait, it's not really that good anyway. So I do feel like the head part is definitely going to be a hot skill for sure. Moving on to the torso, which we just talked about already, so I'm not gonna go over it again. So it just really depends. Like I do personally feel like without alteration is sufficient already, and I would have to say even a base level 1 should be fine in terms of EX skill, because like I think the only thing you're missing is actually just going to be, let's say, the magazine size jumping from 8 to 11. So you're not really losing out that much in a way. So if you are gonna put this in like a cooldown reduction type build, I think you should be sufficient enough to just run a magazine in terms of instead of like 11. So in terms of the leg portrait is come on man, shooting crit rate, are you kidding me? So that's outright bad already, so we're not even gonna look at that. Moving on to the backpack, I guess that is gonna be another factor that you don't really pay too much attention to, because the stat is just not really showing itself. So yeah. In terms of the backpack, it's actually not that good either. I think maybe the only thing you could take, kind of consider is probably like your physical range weapon magazine type boost by 25%. But other than that, I don't really see a point in even maxing out the torso or the backpack. So probably another dud right there. So moving on to the range weaponry over here. So okay. So your cooldown is up by 10%, so that is not going to be good for a cooldown reduction build already, because instead of like 100% cooldown reduction percentage, you're gonna need 110%, because this is gonna increase it by 10% for a cooldown. So that's not actually gonna be good. And then non-EX skill power boosted by 35%. Kind of like why would I even do that? Like, so I do feel like that this is not a good alteration at all. So pretty much basically everything that you can see from the Tieren Taozi is actually not good at all. So that is going to be the unfortunate factor. So I think right now we can safely move on to the EX skill and just see how powerful they can be at base level 1 and then at EX skill level 10, and then also going to be comparing them at their alteration this day. So let me see what they are. Alright, so this one is a level 10 already, so I can upgrade this one to this first. I'm not gonna alterate right now. I'm actually gonna be doing a testing first, and then we're just gonna see how powerful they have become, or you know, yeah. So let me actually hop into some few testing stages for you guys, and then we'll see how they are. Alright, with that being said, that is going to be the EX skill showcase for the Tieren Taozi over here. So I did actually do two comparisons for you guys over here, and I was, I think they were pretty much what I have expected in terms of like level 1 EX skill compared to like a level 10 EX skill. I think in terms of the marginal increases, you guys can definitely see that it does fluctuate a lot, even though I did run them both side by side together, like, literally the same thing. The one for level 10, I actually capped out at using a magazine instead of 11 because I wanted to recreate exactly the same thing. And you guys can probably see that in terms of the chest EX skill, I feel like that one has the biggest fluctuation just because of the fact that what my range is from the enemy does make a difference. So even though it's at level 1 to level 10, maybe a big difference, but I don't think there's like substantial enough. Probably maybe the magazine, but other than that, I feel like even alterating at that point was not really. It's just that I couldn't really tell if there's any any difference. I didn't really do like a whole calculation of like, all right, how much damage did I do? Like how much damage have I accumulated for all those 4 instances over here? So I do personally feel like, as a conclusion, I think an all treated base level 1 should be sufficient enough already. I think the biggest problem is just not having that magazine size. So if you guys do purely want the EX skill, you guys like the aesthetic of it, you want the EX skill, I think you can say you guys should go for it. But if you guys are someone that kind of like, yeah, I don't really like the part itself, like especially the chest. The chest can be a little bit of like, I don't know, like bulky, kind of like a chunky-ish, so may not appeal to a lot of people. I personally do like it for the aestheticness of it, just because like we don't really have too much of this kind of like model in game, I guess, or this kind of style. But other than that, this is purely going to be like a personal preference. If you guys don't want to farm up the Tieren Taozi, I think the next best thing to do with your treasure token is definitely going to be farming up a lot of capital. So right now, I currently do have like what, over 100 tickets. So I think me personally, I'm not really going to go back in. Let's say if I didn't really have like a full set of the Tieren Taozi at level 10, like portrait or ESQ, I think my best choice is definitely going to go for the capital fever, because capital in this game is still one item I feel like can be empty at like at a fraction of a time. It really depends on the player you're talking to. Like I know that there's probably like a tons of players out there that has like millions and million capital stacking there that are unable to be used. But me personally, since I do a lot of upgrading, that's why I kind of tend to favor more on get the capital aspect. But if you guys don't want capital, or you guys need some nippers, upgrading nippers, this is definitely going to be a good spot to upgrade on. But if you guys don't like any of the following items, I think this is probably going to be a chill week for you guys, because there is no any, let's say, challenge or the event points achievement. So there's not really a point to really clear a lot of like the welfare event per se. But yeah, that is going to be pretty much it. So I just want to quickly do some EX skill showcase and testing for you guys in terms of for the Tieren Taozi. So with that being said, that is going to be pretty much it, and I'll catch you guys all on the next one.